And then plus, my mom had me now, and he was like, you know, I think it's time to just
Has he
be
mentored
local.
you a lot on your drumming, bro,
No,
growing
dude,
up?
No, my dad never. The only thing that my dad ever did, this is weird, because my dad has never taught me anything, right? The only thing that I remember of any type of situation like that is I remember being at home. I must have been about, let's see, And Justice for All came out in what?
88.
88, right? So I was about 7. And I remember I was at the kitchen table, and I was on the table with my feet on the floor, right? And then I was doing this triplet thing. Yeah, I was doing this triplet thing on my feet on the floor. And my dad was like, "Why are you doing it with 2 feet?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know. It just came natural like that, because I could do that with 1 foot." And I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah." And I was like, so I remember going that weekend to see my dad perform, right? And I literally, bro, laying down on the floor like this, looking at his foot. When he was playing a ranchera, he would throw the triplet in there, and I was like...
Sort of like the Bobby Naranjo drummer.
Yeah.
La Dirección.
Yes.
Remember, ¿Por qué será que la quiero? He would do all this that drummer was really one of the most amazing
Here's
drummers.
The funny thing, dude, is that I heard, según there's a rumor, I don't know how true it is, so I mean, don't quote me on it, but I heard that Richard Solis had said that my dad invented the triplet in the Tejano thing. Because when I was playing, fast forward, when I was playing with Excelencia, I met Richard Solis. And, you know, everybody knows Richard Solis, and that's the musician in Tejano, right?
Yeah,
Latin legend. Yeah, exactly. So I saw him, I go, "It's Richard Solis," right? So I went to go introduce myself, and he's like, "Mijo, like, where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Seguin." "Really?" Because, you know, there's some Latin breed players from Seguin. "What's your dad?" I said, "Chiquillo Jimenez." "What? That's your dad?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh my God, that's a bad motherfucker." Like he was super like tripping out, but he was like, "No wonder," you know what I mean? So it was really, really cool, man, to hear somebody like that, of that stature, to give props to my dad.
Yeah,
that was cool.
So do you have a relationship with your dad?
He's in my life.
Your parents are still together?
No, my parents actually got divorced when I was 21 years old. Yeah, they got divorced, and
so that's been like 17 years.
Yeah, it's been a minute, you know. And at first, it was rough. I had a lot of animosity towards my dad. It's weird, bro. I had a lot of animosity towards my dad, and you know, for a minute, I guess out of anger of what went down, I would hear his name or people talk about him, and I was like super angry or whatever. And I remember one time after a gig, I was eating at Denny's. Viene Carlito Miranda. He comes into the Denny's and he's like, "Hey, bro, I'm sorry about your dad." Oh no, I'm sorry. What he said? "I'm sorry about your dad," or "I'm sorry what I heard about your dad," something like that. I'm like, "What do you mean? Like what do you mean?" He goes, "Well, I heard he got cancer." I was like, "What?" Like the minute that he said cancer, it's like everything just changed. You know what I mean? And then that's when I realized that no matter what happened between my mother and my father, he was my dad. You know, in this world, you only have one mother and you have one father. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, whether he was what he was at the time, I just, you know what? I love him. I accept, because that shit scared me. You know what I'm saying? So, and come to find out, it was not true. Like I guess it was a rumor, or there was a misunderstanding. It was not true. So thank God, you know, my dad didn't have cancer like that. But it actually, you know, put our relationship back together. Yeah. And it's been blessing ever since, man. Like,
what does your dad do right now?
Actually, nothing. Chills at the house. Yeah.
In Seguin.
In Seguin. He watches.
And your mom lives in Seguin too?
Yeah, my mom. She lives in Seguin too. Yeah. My dad just chills, dude. He don't really. He honestly, he watches, like, he reads his Bible, watches a lot of church, watches golf, and I tell him, I'm like, "Dad, do you ever miss playing?" Sometimes. I don't want to go out there and set up my drums, and you know, he's just. I said, "Why don't you just put him in the living room and, you know, and just jam, just to have him there, you know, like." And he's just like, "Maybe, I don't know," but yeah, it's kind of the same conversation we have when we talk.
Well, that's great, man, that you got back, you know, the relationship going with your dad. How long have you been, like, how long was that since Carlito told you that?
That was back in probably, man, I want to say, I don't even remember, to be honest with you. Yeah, dude, it was so long ago.
It's crazy because you know, when we hold feelings like that, it's just anger, dude. And once you release that, the anger is released. You know what I mean? You don't have the same animosity or feelings, and it turns into a positive.
It's weird, bro, because when I talk to him on the phone now, you know, we talk and the things he tells, because back in the day, my dad used to be like a pool shark, right? He would play, and he was part of a 8-ball association. At my house, literally, at my parents' house, where my dad lives, he has trophies, bro, of most valuable player. I mean, this dude, he was on another level. Yeah, he was bad. My mother was better than him.
Oh yeah,
but he was bad.
Yeah.
So I had asked him also. I was like, Dad, you know, you don't miss playing pool or whatever? I mean, like, you know, because every time I talk to him, he's doing the same thing. So you don't miss shooting pool? And he's like, that was a dark time in my life, son. And I'm like, I mean, we're talking on the phone, and hearing him say these things was a trip, because I never heard him say stuff like that or talk like that. And he was just like, you know, I'm looking for light in my life, you know. And he goes, and I pray for you, and I pray for your family, and you know, he goes, I did a lot of things that I shouldn't have done, you know. I lost a lot of things that I loved, and you know, now I'm just trying to live the best life I can.
Yeah.
And it believe it or not, it's a blessing to hear
some
him.
repairs, man. Yeah.
Exactly.
I talk to my dad as much as possible too, and you know, I mean, you know, there was a lot of, you know, instability, you know, in my relationships, in my family environment when we were growing up, with alcohol, drugs, and stuff like that. But you know, just being able to have a relationship with my dad at 76 and calling him, and it really is a blessing, dude, you know. And my mom too, you know, and it's good to be able to talk to both of them. So man, that's awesome that you got got past that, and and you got that relationship.
It was
going.
rough, dude. It was a little rough. I mean, because I was just, I guess, you know, I held a lot of anger inside, but I mean, at the end of the day.
And then we go through our own relationships and we say, oh, okay, we know more or less what's going on, or you know, nobody's perfect, you know. And you know, so, but that's great, man. That's great. And so your dad's just chilling at the house.
Yeah, just chills, man. He doesn't really play much.
When you turned 5, you had a drum set.
Well, the thing is that, see, I didn't have a drums. That's the thing, is I didn't have drums. Like where I was living, we used to have this cuartito in the back, right? And it was old school, so the floor was made out of wood. So what I would do is, across the street from my house was a barbecue restaurant that's still there. It's called Davila's Barbecue. Real known there in Seguin. And they used to give me their buckets, like for the pickles and onions and stuff like that. So what I would do is I would set up the buckets, and my dad had this little like crate that he made for my mom. She would put the basket on outside when she would hang the clothes. So I would put the 2 crates, one on each side of me, and the buckets. And mind you, I sat on a bucket and I had buckets, and then I had the crates. And my dad had like 2 old ride cymbals that were broken. I didn't have cymbal stands, so I would put them upside down and they would balance on the bell. So that was my drum set, dude. Like, and I would play, and I played that thing. I used to have a buddy of mine by the name of Joe Cantor. He used to come to my house with his BC Rich. We used to play Black Sabbath songs. We would play Motley Crue songs. Yeah, I was like 5 years old, 6 years old. And there was a little cantina across the street from my house. It was called the Green Frog. Well, somebody from there came over to my house. They heard me playing on buckets, mind you, and asked my dad, like, hey, podemos llevar el chavalo ahí, you know, to play some songs. So my dad was like, all right, let's go. So I went, and just like polquitas, dude, you know, I knew polquitas, and that led to people start coming and asking me to go play with them. I was traveling to San Antonio at 5 years old, playing at Mesquite, Ranchito, all kinds of cantinas where they would say they would see the devil at night, y la madre, and shit like that.
And getting paid.
Yeah.
Wow, dude.
I was a little huerquillo.